Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your trusted weather source here, bringing you the weather without all that social media hype, here on your Friday, May 30th, 2025. Now, before we get going, we first want to say thank you and welcome aboard to all our new subscribers here on the channel. And if you're not yet a subscriber, please help us get to 10,000 subscribers. We need to get 2,206 more of you out there to help us get over that threshold. It really helps our little channel out. So please consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. And if you appreciate the support, please leave me a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Well, I thought I'd first start off by taking a look at what I know is going to be a lot of trolling out in social media. And I'm showing you the American GFS model here that came out overnight. And you can see what it's spinning up. Yeah, it's saying, ooh, we're going to get a hurricane into the Gulf of Mexico and moving into the Northern Gulf. Well, the only problem with that, my friends, is that is going out from like day 11 through 14. So it is very, very far out. Just to give you an idea for comparison, as I bring up the European model for a side-by-side comparison for the same period, well, it's not showing much of anything, is it? So the lesson I want to give you out there in social media world is, again, if you see somebody hyping up something that is over like a week away when it comes to the tropics, be aware of them and stay away from them. If you want clear, concise, and good updates, leave it here. Allow me to go and get your updates here, because I know we're going to get a lot of folks out there who are going to be stressing out when they don't need to be. It's still a little bit early out there. So right now, the European is showing some areas. We've got to watch the areas of the Caribbean. That's the hot spot typically when you're looking for the time of year. This is the spot we look for. But for right now, there's nothing out there that's expected to be a problem. In fact, when you look at the latest from the Hurricane Center itself, the next 7 days, it is all quiet. So when we start to see this map begin to light up and we're 7 days in, then we'll start paying attention. So beware of out there, because you're going to see a lot of this out there in social media world kind of hyping up the American GFS when in reality, we're far from getting anything out there just yet. All right, we do have some stuff out there we want to talk about, though. We do have Tropical Storm Alvin in the Pacific, and it's going to have an impact on weather for you folks out there in the desert Southwest. We have an upper-level low nearby that's going to drag the moisture from Alvin up through Mexico and into the areas of the Southwest. And I'm going to show you that in the European model here in just a little bit. But here's the latest satellite imagery. We thought last week that maybe Alvin might become a hurricane, but the environment just doesn't look all that impressive. It looks like we do have a little bit of higher wind shear, and a wind shear that's higher winds aloft. You know, tropical systems don't really like that much. So looks like that we're going to see this stay as a tropical storm in the depression and kind of move its moisture up into Mexico. And like I said, have an indirect impact between that as well as that upper level low that's going to bring some moisture into areas that are, quite frankly, have been in drought conditions for a while. So let's go ahead and take a look here as we go ahead and look at the Atlantic side. Again, Atlantic looking quiet, looking at a few tropical waves out there. But again, we're going to watch very closely here as we go into past the 7th of June. We'll be watching this area very closely if we're going to anything to develop. But for right now, don't worry about it. We'll keep you updated should that begin to change. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look right now at the bigger picture here as we're looking at the satellite imagery here across the country. We're watching what's happening here. We do have an area of low pressure here kind of swinging through areas of the Midwest here. And we're going to have a frontal system that's going to be sweeping on through. So it's going to be pretty hot and heavy here with some thunderstorms coming into the southeast, especially coming into the Carolinas and into Georgia as we go into the afternoon hours here for today. Looking at the surface map here, again, you can see that low pressure system. We are getting some rains. We've had some early severe thunderstorm warnings and even a few tornado warnings, believe it or not, this morning here across portions of Kentucky. Not unusual, the fact that we got that stationary boundary in that area. We're also seeing some heavy thunderstorms down here across South Texas as well. But this whole system is going to be clearing on out. And once it does, we're going to set up for a nice weekend. But for you folks up here in the Northeast, at least on Saturday, it looks like we're going to get another low pressure system that's going to form off the coast here and kind of keep you guys unsettled here for Saturday. I think Sunday we're looking a little bit better. Looking at current watches and warnings, we do have some flash flood watches up here across areas of New England, going up toward the mid-Atlantic, it should say, from New Jersey, stretching down into West Virginia. So no, New England's not up here, sorry, a little bit further south there. We do have some heat advisories out here in the west. It's been kind of hot out here, especially in California, so it looks like that'll continue to stay quite warm. But it looks like that will begin to change as well as we look at the long-range pattern. We'll show you that here in just a second as well. So let's talk about some of that rain. We got some of that heavy rain there kind of moving through Kentucky right now. And seeing that over near Huntington and ready to move into West Virginia. But some pretty heavy rains through there. We've had some thunderstorms there, moved through Lexington earlier. And it looks like things will begin to improve there as we go into later in the afternoon. Now, let's go ahead and break down what we're expecting from the Storm Prediction Center. Like I said, we got that big storm system moving off toward the east, and we do have, again, that slight risk for severe weather. So we got it here coming from Maryland, coming back into Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, as that frontal system begins to sweep on through. It's going to be a bit breezy behind the system as well. Got a couple of little pockets marginal here up along Wisconsin, going into Illinois and Indiana, and we also have some down here in New Mexico as well to watch here for today. Let's go ahead and break down the categories on this one. So let's go see what the tornado threat is going to be for today. And we do have a little bit of a bullseye here across Virginia and into North Carolina. So this is about a 5% risk. Everybody else here looking at a 2% risk includes Georgia, Kentucky, West Virginia, coming along the Carolina coast. Again, I've got to watch that a little bit. The wind threat for today, that's going to be running about 15%. There again, the yellow, obviously the slight risk here from Maryland stretching back into Alabama once again. And that'll be where the hail threat will be predominantly, a little bit smaller area, but generally from areas of Virginia back toward Georgia. Possibility, nickel, quarter-size hail for the most part for that. And we got a little bit of hail, little hail possibility out here toward areas of New Mexico and as well up here into Wisconsin as well and into Illinois. So again, both those areas, that'll include your hail and your wind threat too. I'll go and swipe that back up again. There you go. You see those two right there. Now, what about your day 2 and 3 going into the weekend? How's that looking for across the country? Well, I think we get a bit of a break. It'll be temporary because next week, folks, things really start to crank up there, especially in the middle of the country for the severe weather. So at least for the weekend, looking into Saturday, we got a couple of areas here, marginal risk here along the Carolina and Virginia area, and then back over here in the middle of the country from Kansas down toward Texas. And then the day 3 outlook here, again, down here toward Texas, and a little pocket up here across portions of Idaho and Montana. So this is a little bit of calm before the storm. So the weekend will get a little bit of a break, but then as we head toward Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week, things are really going to start to crank up here with the severe weather, especially in the middle of the country. All right, let's look at the flood at risk here. We got your next 5 days here. Again, we're going to watch the mid-Atlantic here for today. Obviously, we got some pretty good heavy thunderstorms through there. So you see that slight risk for some excessive rainfall here going into New Jersey, stretching back in toward Kentucky. That's for today on your Friday. Now, through the weekend, we'll go this into day 2 that goes into the northeast. That's that big low pressure system, and we're going to show you going up that way for your day 2. Day 3, we kind of shift this into the southwest. That's some of that moisture from Alvin coming northward there across areas of Arizona. And then that'll begin to spread up into the high plains there with that next system beginning to eject on out across areas of Minnesota, stretching back toward Wyoming. So this is going into early next week. This is going into your Monday, and this will go into your Tuesday. So there it is right there. And that'll be those battle zones where we'll see the severe weather risk kind of set up a little bit more there. So those are what will be responsible for your better chance of seeing some isolated flooding there. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the model data here. Let's go ahead and talk about this. We're going to first take a look at the latest NAM, take you through this next 2.5 days here as we're looking at a couple of systems we want to highlight here. So the big thing we will highlight here is this system is going to be kind of moving in here across New England. See this big low kind of spreading up here. It's going to be a very unsettled Saturday, but it does clear out in a Sunday. Looks like a little bit of rain there Sunday morning up across extreme northern portions of New England, but it does start to clear out and improve there. We got some storms here across the southeast we got to watch throughout the day on Friday, but it clears out on Saturday. A little bit of residual wraparound here. See this little storms here going into your Saturday afternoon. It's a cluster of storms here across the middle of the country. You'll see that kind of going on through Texas. Looks like a bit of a unsettled day there on Friday. Look at this moisture coming up here. Again, this is some of that moisture from our tropical system and our upper level low kind of combining and bringing in the rains and wet weather here across portions of Arizona. So some much needed rainfall. That's area, again, has been very inundated with drought conditions. Let me show you that real quick. Again, you see the drought conditions there across the southwest. So the fact that they're going to get any kind of rain at all, that's a big plus there. A little unusual to see that. They usually don't get that kind of rain until monsoon season, and that's well into summer. We're not even there yet. So that's some good news that they're getting some rain there with that. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the rainfall totals. This is out for the next 60 hours. Again, New England seeing some pretty good rains back in here toward areas of the Maryland. You see about an inch of rain. And red pockets here. That's going to be 2 inches plus. Got a little pocket there across portions of Texas. Not bad about across the southeast. We're starting to get some of the initial rains here, but the European shows a little bit better. I'm going to show you that here in just a second. So this is the rainfall totals that take you into, again, Sunday about 2 o'clock. And we'll show you the European when we get to the European here in a second and we go out a little bit longer. So that's where that's looking for right now as far as the rain's concerned. Looks like New England, and then this area from where that flash flood watch is basically up here from Kentucky going back into Maryland there. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about the temperatures here. This is your afternoon highs. And I tell you, for late May, this has really not been bad. When you don't see a lot of red and purple on this map, that says something. Now, it's kind of hot out here in the west. We do have those heat advisories, obviously. You got temperatures well into the 90s here across the interior sections of California. There's a 96, for example. The southwest, 98. But with the rain chances coming here, that's going to beat that back a little bit. But a lot of the country not really looking too bad here on your, looking at your Friday afternoon. So let's go ahead and take this through for the weekend here. Let's go take a look at your morning lows here on your Saturday. We'll take this into Saturday morning here. We'll take it in about 7 o'clock. So still seeing a lot of green on this map. That's not really not bad. It's very comfortable temperatures in the 50s. I mean, you got 50s here in North Georgia here for your Friday, for your Saturday morning, which is definitely not bad. There's a 59 right there. Obviously, still kind of warm here in Texas in the 60s, but the New England, there's 54. Indiana, 44 degrees. You see in Iowa, 52. So very comfortable here for the last day of May. Definitely very, very nice to see. Afternoon highs on your Saturday afternoon. You got everything planned here. Again, still got the heat out here in the west. We see in triple digits, 100, 105. There's 106, 106. So the interior valleys of California, quite hot. We're going to warm up here in the high plains, though. You see the upper 80s here kind of coming back in here, warming up. But cold here in the east. That's that low pressure system spinning up there. Very below normal temperatures here across New England. Comfortable here in the south. Not looking bad there as well. Looking at the 70s, upper 70s for Atlanta, Georgia on the last day of May. Very nice indeed. Texas, not bad. Dallas, right near 84 degrees. So things are really looking pretty good. The heat predominantly contained here in the west. Let's go into your Sunday here. Sunday morning, temperature-wise. And we're going to about 7 o'clock. Again, look at the northeast. Wow, the Midwest and the northeast very much on the cold side. You see a 36 there. There's a 37. Wow. On the first day of June, you're getting temperatures here in the 30s. That's unreal. Here's a 30 degrees temperature up in New York. That's a freezing temperature there. I mean, so very, very unusual. Look at these 40s going all the way down into areas of the Carolinas. So it's very cool here across the areas of the Midwest and into New England. One more day. We're warming up here in the plains, though. You're seeing the 60s back up here into the Dakotas. That's kind of an indication of some of the changes coming here. And relatively comfortable here in the southeast as well, in the mid-60s. This desert southwest, 74 degrees. Looking at Utah at 70. So, again, whenever you see those greens, that's kind of, especially going into summer, you know that's a very nice temperature regime to seem to see. We're probably not going to see much more of these as we go in the days ahead. And then as we kind of go into Sunday afternoon, you see the heat kind of returning back here to Texas, seeing the 90s coming back in here, but still kind of holding on to that cool pocket there across areas of the Midwest and into the Northeast. All right, let's go and talk about the European model here. We're going to looking at the 500 millibar anomaly map. This is where we kind of track our storm system. And boy, look at this thing going up in New England. I mean, we're talking a big system here. Look at that thing. Just spinning around very nice there. Here's our upper level low. This is what's responsible. It's going to bring in that moisture here coming in across areas of Mexico and into the southwestern portion of the United States. So it's kind of acting as a bit of a magnet as it kind of draws this moisture up this way. All right. But what we're going to see as we go into next week, this low is going to finally pull on out of here. And then we got some energy that's going to be ejecting out of the plains here. So Tuesday and Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we got some things we got to watch into this corridor. So again, with this little clash in here, right through here, and then we got this energy that's kind of ejecting out. So we got several days next week where we're going to have to deal with days of severe weather. I think Tuesday and Wednesday are looking like the biggest days right now. As this look at, again, that blue is indication of troughiness, low pressure. When you start seeing the oranges, that's high pressure in there. So it looks like that's going to stay a little unsettled here for going into next week. Now, going beyond this, we're kind of looking to see what the model trends are here. It looks like that stays kind of active. We're still looking at these cutoff features here coming out of the southwest. And every one of these little disturbances, when you see these like this, every single one of them have the ability to fire off some of the thunderstorms because they run into this warmer air to the south. You see this ridging down here toward the south. So it tells me as we go in toward, say, the second weekend in June, going from the 10th, 11th, 12th, we should see the heat start to build up across the south, especially with that kind of thing and limited precipitation there. At least that's what it's showing there on the long range. Now, we'll see what the climate center is saying because the last time I looked, it looked like it was going to stay pretty much on the wet side. But you got a very active, look at these little disturbances all kind of running out here going into June. So each one of these days could set off severe weather. So it looks like the severe weather pause we're going to get is going to really kick up, especially as we head toward the 3rd and going to the 10th. Looks like a pretty active period there. All right, so let's go and look at the European model here. We're a little bit closer here, taking it through the rest of the weekend. We just kind of showed you the first couple days. Let's go into your Monday afternoon here. again, we're going to be looking at the high plains. So looking up here first, we're getting a little bit of this moisture coming in out of the southwest. See that moisture kind of coming up there? So we got this moisture coming up out of the southwest, and it's running into this air mass up here. So we're going to get that initial thunderstorm threat up here going into Monday. So we're looking at severe weather here going into Monday evening. That's going to include Minnesota, back to the Dakotas, and Nebraska. So that's your Monday. That's the second. Going into the third, again, then we'll shift that a little bit further to the east. So we're looking at Wisconsin down into Texas. This will be our kind of a hot zone here going into Tuesday. Again, I'm expecting severe weather on that day as well. But I think both Monday and Tuesday both have the risk of at least enhanced level for severe weather and tornadoes, okay? And then this will shift off to the east here a little bit going in toward Wednesday afternoon. You notice we kind of shift this over here toward the Great Lakes, stretching back toward Texas. Again, this zone will have to be watched for pockets of severe weather as well. Probably at least a slight risk, I think, on that. And then going into Thursday afternoon, that shifts into New England, stretching back here across areas of Kentucky and back toward Texas. Again, because we're in that time of year and we got plenty of warm air, we're going to run the risk for severe weather just about every day next week. But I think the big days, I think, are going to be the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. Those 3 days, I think, will be the most active weather days the way it's currently looking right now. So we'll go ahead and take this into your 7-day run here. You see that the rain kind of moves into the northeast and into the southeast. The rain's a little bit settled here going into Thursday and Friday. This is going into your Friday afternoon, and we'll go ahead and stop it right there. I don't like going beyond 7 days because beyond 7 days are kind of, we're just kind of guessing a little bit there. All right, as far as precipitation is concerned, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about your rainfall totals here. Again, this is going out to your 10-day total, 7 to 10-day total here. Look at this end of the southwest. I want to show you, highlight this. I mean, you got an inch. There's an inch of rain there. There's an inch of rain there. So you get some rains down here in the southwest. Colorado getting some pretty decent rains as well. Obviously, we see the purple areas. Those are the areas where that thunderstorms are going to be quite prevalent. The heavy rain threat, obviously, from Texas on back up into Indiana and into Arkansas. So we got some pretty good rains in here expected over the next 7 to 10-day period. So watch out for that. Southeast getting some decent rains. It looks like pretty dry out here into the west. Again, keep in mind, this is the drought index here. So we're going to get some of that rain across the areas of the southwest. Be beneficial. Not a drought buster, but it will definitely help just a little bit. All right, let's go and look at your climate outlook here. So kind of wrap up this report. They did make some pretty decent changes here compared to yesterday's run. We're still staying kind of warm here in the east. So you're definitely seeing above normal temperatures. There's a pocket of below normal here across portions of Colorado. A little dry there out toward the west there, or a little warm there in the west, I should say, across California. And look at your 8 to 14 day. Keep us this little cool pocket there across the middle of the country and warm everywhere else. So very unusual to see that. And then the big thing was the 6 to 10 day outlook. They really did keep it very much on the wet side here, as it looks like that's going to stay. Looks like we're going to continue to stay with the below normal temperatures here. Above normal precipitation here. So let me go ahead and do a reset here. I'm sorry about this. I have to do a reset on this, and I'm not going to restart this recording. There we go. Finally got it up there. So you kind of see that 6 to 10 day outlook. A big part of the country is showing with above normal precipitation. That's your 6 to 10 day outlook. And it looks like that's going to continue right into days 8 through 14, going in toward the 6th through the 12th. So what that tells me is thunderstorms are going to be quite prevalent, an active weather pattern, as we were kind of indicating there on the European there. And obviously, each one of those days have to be monitored for what level of severe weather we're going to see per day, especially as we go, I'm thinking again, from the 3rd through the 10th, that window right in there, especially looking pretty active here across the nation. All right, that's y'all's update for today. Sorry for a little technical snafu there on my climate outlook, but other than all that, we made it through the update. Again, you guys watch out for those hurricane trolls out there. They're going to be out in force not only now, they're going to be there all season long. So don't get your weather anxiety up and that kind of thing. If you want it straight and narrow, I highly advise you please join us here on the Weather Nerds channel here. Again, I do not like going over the top with my weather. I like to give it to you straight. And if that's the kind of reporting you like, then please help join our family. Hit that subscribe button if you can. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted on my updates. And we do live from time to time. I think we may do a little live severe weather coverage later today, as I'm expecting some severe weather in my backyard heading into the state of Georgia. All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and have a great weekend. We'll see you a little bit later. Bye-bye.